A C major scale. Right? Right. You know, I've been thinking about a lot of different things. And why not? December 31st of any year is a good time to think. I think. Um, and it's 2020. And what's wrong with a C major scale on December 31st of 2020? Well, you know what? The question is, what about the people who argue about a fixed do, meaning that C, whether it's in C major, F major, G major, right? And any number of minor scales and all that, as long as it's a C, it would be called do. If it's in the key of E flat, okay, let's say I played E flat scale. With a fixed do, when I would play the C, it would still be called do. However, when the do is movable, some people talk about having a movable do, and they teach their music theory according to a movable do, then that fundamental, that tonic, in this case, would be E, or E flat, because I played an E flat scale, right? So the do, if the do is representing the tonic, then what's wrong with a movable do? For me, that feels fine. At the same time, I mean, the note has a name already. Let's say C. Why does it have to be named do? And so some people said, yeah, wait a minute. If the function changes, then maybe the name of the note should change. At least in solfege. So if the C is a fifth, as it would be in F major, why is it still being called do? When the relative relationship from one note to another changes. So are we speaking of names, or are we speaking of function? Interesting topic. Fixed do, movable do. But you know what, the one that's really interesting me lately is what's called the removable do. You never heard of that? The removable do. Let me tell you what I mean about that. I'll get a little closer. Does our society, or let's just say does our species, if we had to put it in the form of a scale, is there a do? An actual fundamental tone, the human scale, the human tones. And we do have 7 holes in our head. Which one is do? Well, a lot of the problem is that in our culture, money is the do. And for someone else, well, actually, maybe greed is the do. money ties with that. You see what I'm getting at? Do we have a fixed fundamental tonic point as a race? And when I think about it, there's only one do at the absolute essence of everything, the big tonic, the big fundamental tone. Would need to be truth. But in our culture, it's a removable do. It might be do for a second. Here's the fundamental point. We have a constitution. That's the do note of our country. Let's just use this as an analogy. And people come along and then there's interpretations of how that do note should be. And it almost looks like there's a movable do. And I just think, no, actually people are just removing the do. They're removing the fundamental core point where everyone is supposed to be in agreement and come to those terms that are held in the core sentiment of the Constitution. Like liberty, freedom of speech, life, happiness, and the problem I see lately in the midst of this era is we don't know where our do note is anymore. We don't know where it is. I believe there is one. The core essence of whatever great composer created existence, life. And that name could be many different names. Maybe it's C, maybe it's E, maybe it's G, maybe it's B flat. Maybe it's Buddha, Christ, Krishna, Muhammad, Adonai. And so many other names where people have felt the essence of human life. I'm sure there are names for the great composer and the great omnipresent domain that was created, that great omnipresent domain symphony. And we lose track in the midst of all the different notes, all the variations and modalities and changes and chords and variations of infinite variety. Sometimes we lose track of the do note. So I'm speaking obviously in terms that if anyone has anything to do with music, you'll understand fixed do, movable do, but you might not have heard of removable dough. So I've been thinking about an end of the year message, a wish, a New Year's wish and greeting for everybody. And this is what I'm thinking about. To me, the essence and dough note for life is truth. And that truth is one. That truth expresses itself. The one truth expresses itself in the many. And it's easy to lose our way. It's easy to take sides. I want fixed dough. Fixed dough is the only thing that exists. Nope. Movable dough makes more sense because then the tonic and all the different arguments. I feel it's easier to learn this way. That other way is messed up. Sound like a current state of affairs at all? So just replace news with truth. People blaming each other. That's fake news. Well, that's fake truth. Or science. People are talking about science. Science is a living, live thing. In essence, science is truth. But because we live in an ever-changing universe, that truth in science will take different forms and cycles and shapes. But in essence, you'll find the truth in it. Now, where things start to deviate from truth is if there's another human agenda. If there's another human agenda that says, know what? There's money to be made here. Dough. There's a lot of dough to be made here. So, we'll rewrite the science. In the name of dough. But that dough doesn't stand for truth. That doesn't stand for the tonic. It doesn't stand for the fundamental. And it'll change. It'll be movable, but removable. According to where the dough, in terms of money, will flow. Unless the human being, in my humble view, can get to the point where the fundamental core truth central lives and want to be with that truth, the major absolute essence truth, this is going to be a rough ride. This is going to be rough. It has been rough. Now, people are trying to take the dough and say, there's a new normal. There's the new dough. See, that's the move. That's an example of the movable dough. Or removable, let's just take it out of there. But they're using it as a dough. We're going to have a new scale. It's called the new normal. Well, first of all, for me personally, what new normal? Things haven't been normal for years and years and years and epochs. Depends what you think normal is. There are those great ones that have come with the message of the do note, the tonic, the fundamental, the point where the pebble drops and the waves appear from there. And so if you think we're on, C leading to do, we're pretty close, a half step away. But you can take that half step and slice it into an infinite number of small units. Or make it even further away and go down the scale. And in this way, down from the great potentiality over the human being actually lies. The human being has such great potential. I'm so thankful. Years ago, I wanted to tune myself to truth. I can't even tell you. And thankful for those that have helped me. For those that I have met in books or scriptures of all kinds. And for those who I've met in person. And for others in my life that have helped me with that to such a great degree. People in my family I was born with. My mom and dad and grandma and grandpa showed me different kinds of truths. And I'm married to a person, Dr. V, who has inspired me in many ways with truth. And we want to be in that journey together. And it's not easy. But it's honorable, and I have no other choice. At this point in my life, and for decades before, I really had no other choice. I could not do it. It's like I could not play the trombone. I had to. And with that same desperateness, I want to find truth. And it's really just that seed to dough. It's only that half step away. But when you have like a little hair in your eye, you can't see. If you have a little hair in your ego, well, that ego is that little hair. Can't see well. And that's a journey. A journey I welcome. As hard as it is. I'll do my best till the last breath I take. And so, I really pray, hope, wish that somehow the human being can try to be in a dialogue of truth and not be afraid of others who say, hey, what about this point? One thing I've learned from being a teacher for 53 years. And a performer for, I don't know, longer than that. Not much longer. I don't know, 56 years. Or 55, whatever it is. It's that we're all different, but we're the same. But we're all different, but we're the same. But that different, that uniqueness, that stamp of the Creator, that's right, that uniqueness of each being is the stamp from where origin arises. It's a stamp from the one that is total original. And to deny your uniqueness is a problem, for you go against natural law. Now, I'm not saying you can't improve, you can't grow, you can't develop, you can't do things tomorrow. In other words, if you can't do something today, I'm not saying you can't do it the next day or the next year or the next 10 years from now. Of course, we can keep growing. That's one of the great things about being a human being. We can grow till our last breath. And that's truth. And it takes incredible will. Or just being in touch with your will, because it's incredible on its own. I would hope this gives some hope. Or awakens the hope that's already in you. That awakens the potentiality already in you. For all unique. So to say, look, when you play that instrument, here's the only way to take a breath. Well, wait a minute. No, it isn't. That's like saying, oh, you got this particular illness. You'll only be cured if you do this one thing that the authorities tell you need to do. Really? Does that sound like truth to you? If someone was so confident in the truth, then why all the censorship for others who have proven ways to help the condition we're in at the physical level? They just all of a sudden want to say, no, that doesn't true, that's not true, that's not verified. But they're not holding up data to support their untested measures. Just saying. Truth is where you can go, you know what, wait a minute, I need to look at this differently. Truth is not being dug into one party or another. Because then you just get ping pong. Truth is actually being open-minded enough to go, let's consider this for real. Not in terms of a sense of gain, what's this going to get me money-wise? Or will I lose popularity if I say what I really think? And that's a problem these days. Guess what we're tuning to? The do note is fear. Do you really want that to be your do note? That's the beauty of a movable do at that level of life, at the level of emotion, psychology, and beliefs. We want to be able to change because the actual core essence do note is truth, and our abilities to adapt is vital. Absolutely vital. And we were born with those abilities. So, brave to be. to thyself be true. And as a great mentor of mine who stood for truth and embodied truth said, be your own person, but love the truth. Didn't say be your own person and love your ego. Didn't say be your own person, but make sure you make a lot of money. Be your own person, but love the truth. And this summer, to try to give what help I could, I have a Frequency Bone Summer Music Connection that's been going on for 12 years. And this summer was the first time it was on Zoom. And instead of just being, there's 100 YouTube videos. And there were some from this summer too. But the topic was music in the natural worlds. And you know what our tuning note was? You know what the do note was? Because really being in tune means being in agreement. But we want to tune to truth. And we found it. Looking at nature, we asked ourselves this question. Is nature non-human? And we put it actually in these terms. Nature is non-human created. The room went. That fundamental truth do note stood there like that. Immovable, firm. No arguments. No disagreements. Nature is not human created. The same thing if I say to you, hey, you know what? Let's all agree we'll be fine, but let's not eat food for 6 weeks. Solid food. We know that's not true. We won't be doing very well. In fact, we will not be in this form anymore. And the same thing with water. Let's not drink water for a week. Maybe some can stretch a little longer, but air. Let's take that away for a couple days. Well, everyone knows we're speaking minutes when we speak about air. And what about energy? Electromagnetic impulses, even on that level. Immediate, gone. So the next time the human race faces a situation where all of a sudden someone says something like they did in March, and all of a sudden, like a flick of a switch, the whole globe is tuned to the symphony and do note of fear. Because we're not asking the other questions. Are we digging for the facts or just accepting what we're hearing? I love the anagram of question. I quest on. So anyone who's digging into truth, boy, you're going to have questions. And it's incredible when you ask the right one. It takes a while. So, my praying, my wishing, my hoping is that we can all find that collective do note where there's no argument and start from that premise and realize we're all part of the same family, of beings on this earth with all of its other life. We also have a solar system life, right? We have a galactic life, and we have a universal life. The human being is a magnificence, especially when it's in tune. I wish everyone the best. And we take the best things that happened in this year to us and are trying to figure things out and take with us what was useful and maybe take another look at things and realize, wait a minute, let's leave that behind so we can actually have a new beginning, which is always our option and choice. All the best to everybody.